What is the 22nd thing that I would do differently if I were going to college today? I would have used campus artifacts to select my college. Hi, I'm Passion Darby, and this month I am going to be sharing with you 31 things that I would do differently if I were going to college today. So, 31 years ago, almost to date, I was an 18-year-old young woman. And I decided that I was going to college that fall no matter what. And I did go to college that fall. It was fall of 1993. So here I am, 31 years later, and I have amassed a vast amount of wisdom, knowledge, and experience that I plan to teach college goers today through this channel. So, what is the 22nd thing that I would do differently if I were going to college today? I would absolutely use campus artifacts to select my college. So, let me tell you exactly what is a campus artifact. So, a campus artifact is any object, both material or non material, that is within the college or university environment. According to my mentor, Dr. James Banning, there are four categories of campus artifacts. The first one is art. So, any type of art that you might see on campus, including statues, actual portraits, artistic duplications, objects within the campus museum, and any other artistic expression, including music, can be considered art. The second one is architecture. So this includes monuments, buildings, and other type of architectural sculptures. Signs. This is just a physical document. This could be on the bulletin board. This could be a sign that is posted within the residence hall. But most importantly about signs is what does the sign or signs say? And then lastly, he categorized graffiti. This is very important because oftentimes college environments are filled with different types of graffiti, and you need to consider what does that graffiti say, and if it is saying something that is offensive to you, or how long does that institution or college or university allow that graffiti to stay on the campus. All of these things are very important. Then I have another person who I look to about campus art regarding campus artifacts. He is not my direct mentor, but I have spoken to him before, and his name is George Koo. He categorizes campus artifacts as verbal, behavioral, and physical. A verbal artifact is anything that is expressed in words within the college or university environment. So that could be the school's fight song or their athletic song. It could be the college's alma mater. It could be the college's mission statement, which is very, very important. Or it could simply be a poem that the institution uses or on its website to express some sort of creative ideas, or it can be the words on the website, period, that the school uses to express its culture. Behavioral artifacts are the way that people behave within the environment. So these could be ceremonies, these can be rites, these can be rituals, or one of my favorite behavioral artifacts is the Morehouse Rites of Passage program, which no one knows about except for Morehouse men, which is really ideal and perfect to keep your rites of passage secret. So those are examples of behavioral artifacts. Also, graduation ceremonies and orientation week is a behavioral artifact. Physical artifacts goes back to what Dr. Banning was talking about, which can be art, architecture, science, or graffiti. So basically anything that you can touch, anything that is physical. Now, there is a new category of campus artifacts that art scholars are starting to write about, but not as much as they've written about the other ones that I've discussed, and that is digital artifacts. And possibly the reason is because when Dr. Vanny and Dr. Koo began writing about campus artifacts, digital artifacts were not a thing, okay? So now a campus's or a college's website is just as important as any other artifact. If you read the website or even just view the website, it can actually tell you a lot about that college. So, why are campus artifacts important? Because they are symbols of institutional culture. I got that definition from Dr. Koo. So if you look at an artifact or you experience an artifact or you observe an artifact, or in the case of websites, if you interact with a college's artifact, you can tell a lot or decipher a lot about is that college's values, traditions, and culture. Also, understand that artifacts will always say what college administrators won't say or don't say. So if you ever ask a college administrator at maybe, let's say, a predominantly white institution, for instance, is there racism on this campus? Do students who are not Caucasians struggle with racism on this campus? What do you think they're going to say? If they're trying to recruit you to that college, they are going to probably either lie, or they're going to cover up the truth, or they're going to downplay the truth if there is actually racism on that campus. So they may say, oh, no, not really. Black students are really happy here, or Black students feel welcome, or they may not answer the question at all. And they may say something like, we have a lot of programs that support underrepresented students or students who need to have a sense of belonging. So you want to say, okay, I hear you. And then you need to go look at those artifacts and see what the college really says, how the college really feels about students of color, or students with disabilities, or students who are at the margin, or students from international countries. All of these things can be determined and deciphered and interpreted via the artifacts. So that is very important. So I'm going to share a few things about my experience with artifacts, and then I'm going to tell you how you can select a college based on artifacts. So for me, as you all know, and I'm just going to focus, I think, mostly on my undergraduate institutions. So when I attended Philander Smith College, I did not know anything about artifacts, even though I loved college artifacts. Okay, I fell in love with college artifacts at around age 8, 9, or 10. Whenever I began to see, well, first of all, when I saw School Days, which is a film by Spike Lee, I was in love with college artifacts from that. But then a television show called The Cosby Show, I noticed that Bill Cosby's character, which was Heathcliff Huxtable, he began wearing sweatshirts and t-shirts with college names on it. And of course, The Cosby Show was insanely popular when I was growing up, and I never missed an episode. But those shirts and those sweatshirts captivated me. I mean, just captivated me. And I would ask my mother, where is that university? Where is that college? What is the name of that college? Have you ever been to that college? Mama, can you take me to that college? So I've always loved campus artifacts. I just did not know what they were called. So when I went to Philander, when I enrolled in Philander for my freshman year undergrad, I wasn't looking for artifacts. But now that knowing what I know today, I would say that the best artifact at Philander was the coronation, which is a behavioral artifact. So it was such a beautiful and elegant ceremony, and it really defined the culture at Philander Smith College. It stated that how it was important that we as students dress well, carry ourselves well, and carry ourselves with dignity and pride. And it also sent the message that the college queen, because the coronation celebrates and acknowledges the college queen, it, that she was to be revered on campus. It sent that message. Moving on to Alabama State University, they have exceptional artifacts, but one of my favorites is Bibb Graves Hall, which is a dormitory. So that's a physical artifact. And why is Bibb Graves Hall important to me? Well, because that's what my mother and my father met at Alabama State University, and when I was growing up, my mother always talked about Bibb Graves Hall and how much she loved Bibb Graves Hall. So when I went there and I moved into Bibb Graves Hall, I was really honored by that. Now, keep in mind, we are much more socially conscious today, and Bibb Graves Hall has now been renamed to Joanne Robinson Hall, and you should look up why that is, because it is very important. Joanne Robinson was a civil rights activist in Montgomery, Alabama. She also attended Alabama State University. And now that I know who Bibb Graves is or was, there is no way I would have been excited about living in that hall today, because Bibb Graves was a Klans member. He did a lot of horrible things to Black people in Montgomery, Alabama. Well, I would say in Alabama as a whole, but Montgomery in particular, based on what I have researched. So that's nothing to be proud of. But now Alabama State University has course corrected that artifact, and they have renamed that institution. And if I'm not mistaken, they renamed that institution in 2021. I believe that. I'm sorry, not the institution, that building in 2021. Another building they have on campus that I love is the Fred Shuttlesworth Hall, because Fred Shuttlesworth was another fantastic civil rights activist, and I actually took my students to Ohio to meet him in 2006, I believe, and he passed away shortly thereafter. So, of course, I'm honored to walk in any hall or interact with any hall that is named after him. And then lastly, they have the Turkey Day Classic, that is actually a football game, so that's a behavioral artifact. And the reason why I love the Turkey Day Classic is because that's all I heard growing up. My father talked about the Turkey Day Classic all the time. So the Turkey Day Classic is an annual football game that takes place on Thanksgiving Day between Alabama State University and Tuskegee University. And I really love both of those institutions. I've traveled to both of those institutions many times. And as you know, I attended Alabama State University. Moving on to Clark. Clark Atlanta University is just spectacular on so many levels. But what I really love about Clark Atlanta University is its artifacts. So some of the standout artifacts for me is the W.E.B. Du Bois statue. Why? Because of course I attended a all Black private college prep elementary school. And we talked about W.E.B. Du Bois a lot, and we also read his books a lot. Even, and yes, in elementary school, my elementary school was next level, but that's a whole nother video. And so I knew and admired W.E.B. Du Bois from childhood. So it's wonderful to see a bust of him on campus and in the middle of the quad, where a lot of students walk to campus and walk to other activities, walk through campus and walk to their curricular and co-curricular activities on campus. Another great artifact is the quadrangle itself, because land on a college campus is a physical artifact. And then lastly, my other favorite artifact at Clark Atlanta University is the promenade, because so many of my good times at Clark Atlanta occurred on the promenade. And the promenade is a street that goes through the campus. And I can't even describe to you the fun that I used to have on the promenade. I mean, some of my most in-depth conversations took place on the promenade, not just with my classmates, but with faculty and administrators. I used to love seeing the college president, the Clark Atlanta University president, just walking on the promenade like it was nothing, and it just relaxing and socializing with students. And then a lot of the times when sororities and fraternities would do their step shows, or they would meet up together, they would do so on the promenade. And then sometimes there were parties on the promenade as well, so the DJs would be there, and it was just a fun time. So that's my favorite that is my absolute favorite artifact at Clark Atlanta. I think I just love Clark Atlanta. Just I shouldn't have favorites when it comes to the artifacts at Clark, because it's filled with so many. But if I had to choose, going back to selecting a college based on artifacts, if I had to choose, an undergraduate college based on the artifacts, I of the three I did attend, I would choose, drum roll, Clark Atlanta University, of course. Why? Because honestly, it's you can't even walk on the campus without running into an historical artifact. You just can't. You know, it's filled with artifact. And other institutions that are similar are like Howard University. You cannot walk on Howard University's campus without interacting with some significant artifact. So I really admire that about Clark Atlanta University. But the other thing is that Clark Atlanta University is on the same campus as I think five other universities or institutions now. And if you put those institutions together collectively, which I'm going to try to name them Spelman College, Morehouse College, Morehouse School of Medicine, Clark Atlanta University itself, Morris Brown College, and Interdenominational Theological Center. I think I got that right. Okay, so all of those schools, colleges combined on within the Atlanta University Center is just astronomical regarding campus artifacts. You literally cannot touch anything on any of those campuses without touching something significant. So that's why it's my favorite. Not to mention the museums on campus, but that is another video for another time. So let me tell you how you can select a college using campus artifacts. And remember what I taught you. Campus artifacts are art, architecture, signs, graffiti, and they can be verbal, behavioral, and physical as well as digital. Okay? So, the first way that you can use artifacts to select your college is consider what art, architecture, signs, and graffiti you want to see on campus. So for me, if I were to ask myself that question, I would definitely want to see all those things that and have them reflect Black culture. If they do not reflect Black culture, I would not want to attend that college. Why? Because I am a Black woman and I like to see people and who look like me, and I like to see my culture in my face. I enjoy that. I live for that. I grew up in that. It's important to me. So you have to ask yourself, what is important to you? Number two, consider what art, architecture, signs, and graffiti would be offensive to you if you saw it on campus. So, for instance, I talked about Bibb Graves Hall, which is at Alabama State University. Now, when I was a student there, I was in love with Bibb Graves Hall, just in love. And I was proud when people said, "What dorm do you stay in?" Third floor, Bibb Graves, I was super, super proud. But now, had they not changed the name of that hall at Alabama State University, I would be ashamed to tell somebody that I lived in Bibb Graves Hall because Bibb Graves is not a positive character. So I'm not proud of that. But now I can say I lived in Bibb Graves Hall and it has now been renamed Joanne Robinson Hall. So that's the difference. So you have to ask yourself, what would you see on campus that would offend you? And if you see too many things on campus that offend you, that is not the institution for you. Think about that. Number three, consider what words would offend you if you heard them on campus. This is a verbal artifact. Excuse me. Words are verbal artifacts. So, for an example, there are some words within many college campuses that are offensive to Native Americans. I've run into this issue at my most recent university, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And even though I am not Native American, that is offensive to me because I just think universities should be inclusive when it comes to their artifacts, or inclusive as possible when it comes to their artifacts, or at least not offensive. And some of those words were offensive. But University of Illinois is not the only institution that has had that issue. Many colleges in our country has had that issue. So You have to ask yourself, what words would be offensive to you if you heard them or observed them on campus? Number four, what ceremonies would you like to experience, or what rites of passages would you want to experience on campus? So if you want a African American keynote speaker at your graduation, then you more than likely should send a historically Black college or university. That's important to me. It may not be important to you. If you want to have concerts, which is a behavioral artifact, with your favorite artist, you have to say, with your favorite artist as the guest, you would have to say, well, who is my favorite artist and what institution would more than likely invite that artist to um, perform at my college. So for me, when I was in school, and when I was in college, I remember a group called Next performing at homecoming, and Next was everything in the 90s, everything. I mean, I had a crush on one of the group members. His name is RL. He is still gorgeous today, but that's a whole nother story. But he performed at Alabama State University, and that's what I want to see when I'm in college. What kind of artists would you like to see? I know these are questions you may not have ever thought to ask yourself, but they are very important. And you have to remember, you are paying tuition. Get everything that you can get out of that college for those tuition costs. Number six, use all of the information that I have suggested to you and that you have come up with by asking yourself these questions, and create a 30-point checklist. And then, number seven, tour the campus to see if the college you're interested in matches that checklist. I believe that you should have more yeses than nos. If you have more nos than yeses, that is not the college for you. Number eight, check the website to see if what you see on the website matches your checklist, and dig deep. Go into the rabbit hole of the website, because oftentimes most students just go on the homepage, and then they're just like excited about what they see on the homepage. But no, 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 you need to dig much deeper. Look for everything within that website and see if any of it reflects your checklist and any of it reflects you. Then, number nine, speaking of the homepage, log onto the homepage of your prospective college and ask yourself if the students on the homepage look like you. Yes, I said it. This is very important because campus artifacts typically reflect the dominant student population at that college or university. And this is kind of, controversial to say, but it also reflects the students who are prioritized at that college or university. So look on the website's homepage, and if you don't see you don't see people who look like you on that homepage, that college is more than likely not either not interested in serving you, or they don't prioritize the serving of you. So you need to think about that. That was a good point. I'm gonna have to write that one down for my own self again. But let's move on. Number 10, ask yourself Ask yourself if the building names reflect your heroes or people who look like you. You can find out what the buildings' names are through Googling your prospective college, as well as just say buildings, and it more than likely, Google will produce a list of buildings at that campus. You can also go through the institutional website, because some institutions, like my most recent institution, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, they are very good about using about listing all the buildings names, and having like a easily accessible place where you can find out all the buildings and all the artifacts that are on campus. But most important, look at it and say, are any of these buildings named after people who I admire? If it isn't, that tells you a lot. Number 11, Google your prospective college, then select news. Why is this important? You need to read what's going on at that campus, because sometimes students are having protests, sometimes there's violence on campus, sometimes a professor has gotten fired for doing something dishonest or unkind, or even racially motivated. So you need to see what's going on that campus, because newsletters and news reports, even if they're digital, those are also artifacts. They're not college artifacts, but they are definitely artifacts. And either way, they will communicate to you what is going on at that institution. Number 12, let's see, am I right? Okay. Number 12, see what artifacts are highlighted on the website. That would tell you a lot about what the college or university values at their campus. Or it will tell you what artifacts they think are most important. And the artifacts that they think are most important will tell you what they value or who they value. Number 13, finally, take a virtual tour of the campus. This will demonstrate to you which artifacts the college or university is proud of. Because typically, if they are inviting you to do a virtual tour, of course they're going to highlight the best of their campus, the best of the best. But you can use that to your benefit and say, oh, okay, they're proud of the technology building or the engineering building or this particular statue or this particular museum or this particular piece of art or this particular um, parking lot or this particular street. All of those things are artifacts and they're very important. And so you need to say to yourself, okay, that is what that college or university is proud of. But would I be proud to represent those things? Would I be proud if I told someone about this parking lot or this accessibility ramp or this website or this sign that I've seen or this building name or this piece of art? You have to ask yourself those questions. Another thing you need to do is see if they are showing the cultural centers on that represent your culture. So for instance, I've gone to some campuses and all of the cultural centers were really beautiful, like the Asian American Center or the Native American Center or the European History Center. And then I go to the Black Cultural Center and it looks like trash. What does that tell you? That artifact tells me that that particular institution does not value its Black student population. That would not be a college that I would choose. So I really hope this helps because artifacts are so important. And in summary, remember that when it comes to college, you are the customer. The student is the customer. No matter what administrators or faculty tell you, you have to keep in mind there would be no faculty, there would be no administrators if there were not first students. So the student is the customer, and the university is there to serve you. And one of the ways that the university or college serves you is through its environment. And what is in the environment? Campus artifacts. So make sure those artifacts serve you and that they make you happy and that they make you feel good and they make you feel like you belong before you enroll at the institution. Thank you so much for listening. This is the first time that I've ever talked so deeply about campus artifacts outside of writing about it. And I will link some articles that I've written about campus artifacts in the description. But for now, I just want to thank you for listening, and I really want you to go to college.